What's going on, guys? In the works, and yes, some Battlefield 4 multiplayer gameplay. This is the first time I've had any on my channel, actual gameplay from the multiplayer, so I'm actually pretty excited. But I've been watching a lot of the live stream, and this is actually from the live stream. I've been watching it pretty much nonstop while I work for the past 2 days. I know, not very good for productivity, but I couldn't help it, guys. I wanted to soak in as much Battlefield 4 as possible while E3 was going, because it's always really exciting to see a new unveiling of a game that you're really looking forward to, kind of dissect the ins and outs of the multiplayer features and stuff like that. But there's plenty of information out there. There's plenty of videos talking about that stuff. I'm just going to kind of touch on a few things that I thought are going to be really game-changing, some of the things that I just thought was really interesting that they've changed, and just my overall feeling on the new multiplayer. So obviously I have not yet, and I say yet, gotten a chance to play it. Hopefully here soon I will be able to play it a little bit, crossing my fingers. But from what I've seen, it seems like they're pushing this game in the right direction. Now this is looking to shape up a lot like how I thought Battlefield 3 was going to shape up. Commanders back, 5-man squads, tons and tons and tons of destruction. I know you guys have seen that skyscraper probably fall like 50 times at this point, but every time I see it fall in the live stream, I'm like, man, that's just so awesome. I cannot wait to experience stuff like that in the actual game. So a lot of exciting stuff to talk about. Let's touch on the 5-man squad stuff first, though, because that's one of the big features they've changed. And I wanted to wait a few days before I kind of commented on the actual multiplayer, because I wanted to get all the possible information, see all those different interviews with the developers. That way I could get a good feel of the direction, the reasoning behind a lot of these changes that are in the game. And the 5-man squads, it seems like it's actually a twofold reason. Obviously the community wanted larger squads because you want more friends to play with, but they're really focusing on the competitive side of things. That's been no secret. They've really been very public about that. And the 5-man squads just work better for the competitive scene because most competitive teams are 5-man units, so they bumped it up to that. Another reason I think they might have done that is kind of the way they've structured the new squad perk system. It does evolve, so the better you do, the better your squad gets. You can rank up your squad perks, and oh, here's that new med pack where you can actually sit it on the person and heal them while they walk away. So I think that's actually pretty cool. It really speeds up the pacing of the game, that's for sure. And we'll talk a little bit about that a little bit towards the end of the video, but the 5-man units will make it so that it's a lot easier to keep your squad perks rolling. Because in the interview in the live stream, they kind of touched on that with one of the developers, that the better your squad's doing, the more you can like level up your perks and stuff like that. So once your squad's actually done, though, I mean that's it. I mean you have to go back to the beginning. So it makes sense to have larger squads so that system kind of works properly, because if you didn't have that, I mean, it would be pretty easy to wipe out your squad. So I'm actually kind of interested to see how the 5-man unit plays. It's nice to have an extra slot. I mean, I've always wanted larger squads. I think it makes sense. But one other thing that I kind of noticed off the bat is it seems like bolt actions are pretty much the same. It doesn't seem like there's a lot of changes in that department, but the recoil patterns on all the weapons across the board, be it bolt actions, be it submachine guns, be it assault rifles, that seems a lot more intuitive. Because one complaint a lot of people had about Battlefield 3 was the recoil was either impossible to control or too easy to control. You've got the M16, which is an upward right recoil. It's really easy to just compensate for that, and you get to the point where the M16 is just the easiest to use weapon. Well, it seems like the recoil in this is going to be a lot more stable across the board. I noticed it's much more prevalent, especially on some of the higher fire rate weapons. I mean, if you've seen that Scorpion Evo, which is actually like, I think it's called the CZ something 103. I'm not really sure what the number is at the end of it, but it's a very high fire rate weapon. I think it fires 1,100 rounds per minute in this game, which is really high. I mean, that's how it is in real life as well. So it is a fast shooting weapon, but you can tell that it sucks at long range and that it has a tremendous amount of recoil, especially a lot of initial recoil. So I'm really liking the way the recoil is shaping up. I think it's going to make the weapon balance a lot better. I think that's one of the things that, it was built in the Battlefield 3 and they really couldn't change that a ton. You can increase the recoil all you want, but if it's easy to control, it's easy to control. So it's nice to see that the weapons might be a little bit more balanced across the board, which means that we'll see people use different stuff. We won't see people using just assault with M416s, M16s, and AEKs. So that's something I'm really excited about. So let's talk about some of the new gadgets, some of the new things that I think are pretty cool. The Incendiary Grenades, That sounds pretty awesome. I'm kind of wondering, what will that do against a tank? I've noticed that when I've been watching a lot of people play on the live stream, if there's one of those nades, has gone off in the street and there's a giant ball of fire there, oftentimes tanks don't go towards it. So I'm wondering if it actually causes some sort of damage to tanks. I could imagine most modern tanks could survive that, but you never know. They could have put it in the game to kind of balance stuff off. But you'll notice if you see a lot of players using it, I know the live stream has been very hit or miss. Like, it seems like the people haven't really been focusing on the cool areas. It seems like once somebody starts going on a massive streak, they tend to switch away and go to someone else. I don't know if that's because they want to limit what you can actually see unless you're actually at the event. I'm not really sure, so there's not a lot of good footage. I mean, I went through like 5 hours of different live stream footage to find some of the best moments, but if you ever see anybody using the incendiary grenades, pay attention, because they're a very rare treat on the live stream, and I'm actually pretty intrigued how the damage model works on something like that. Is it like instant death as soon as you walk in? So that's really cool. It seems like they've actually got some different sorts of knives. They've got a shank and they've got a regular knife. I guess the shank is just like a little piece of metal tied to some sort of handle that you can stab people with. I'll be curious to see also how that works in terms of, does it do more damage than the normal knife? Does it do less damage? Is it quicker to swing? What is this shank all about? Or is it just mostly cosmetic? I wouldn't be surprised if it was cosmetic, just to give you some choices, because there is a lot of different camo choices in this game. There's all sorts of camo choices, all sorts of customization and attachments, which I think is going to be interesting. I'm a little worried about that in terms of balance, though. I think that if it's a little bit too, if the attachments do too much, that can make it really hard to balance certain weapons. I think Call of Duty actually, and I hate mentioning Call of Duty in a Battlefield 4 video, because Battlefield 4 is going to blow Call of Duty Ghost out of the water, in my opinion. But in Call of Duty, one of the problems they get into is they just have too many perks, too many attachments, and it just makes it too hard to balance the weapons. So I know there's a lot of stuff to talk about. This is only my first video. I just kind of wanted to touch on some of the things that have been going around in my mind, my thoughts on the multiplayer. So far, I think it looks awesome. The diving mechanic, the way you swim now, just the character movement, the tanks, everything looks to be a lot more fleshed out, a lot more thought out, and I'm really excited for it, because I think that this is going to be what everyone expected out of Battlefield 3. We've got Commander, we've got Spectator mode. We've got 5-man squads, we've got better weapon balance. This is going to be a very big treat for anyone who's a fan of the Battlefield series. So first impressions are positive. As you see the guy swimming there, you can see you can swim much faster. You can actually shoot your pistol in water now, from what I hear. There's a specialization, I think. Don't quote me on this. Apparently you can shoot your pistol while swimming. So I'd like to see what that actually, if anyone has any footage of that actually happening, I would love to see that, because they mostly just touched on the live stream. And if you've been watching it, you'll know that those guys in the live stream aren't, they're not the smartest kind of guys when it comes to Battlefield stuff, because I don't think they're definitely like hardcore Battlefield players or anything like that. So hopefully you guys did enjoy this video, though. If you missed any of my past videos, here's a chance to catch up. I did talk about the Second Assault DLC over some more Battlefield 4 multiplayer stuff. So check that video out, and I will see you guys next time. Peace.